Hi everyone. We're gonna be starting in a couple of minutes. We'll have Mindy come on, but I'm super excited to just share with you some mindfulness tips and kind of learn from Mindy. So let's see how we add her. We'll have her request to join, I guess. There we go. Invite to join. There we go. Oh, hi. Hi, Lydia. Hello.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. I see a couple of people coming in.
Awesome. I'm just setting
Well,
my phone up.
yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Love your office, by the way. So
What
cute.
was that?
I love your office. The little
Oh,
plant.
thank you. Yes, there's plants and random. It's my Hello Kitty.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Yeah. Where are you, Kat?
I'm in Tampa right now. I'm in the I just had some studying done, so I'm just off on.
Oh, fun.
So yeah, a good way to
Friends.
say I really need these tips today, so I'm so excited.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking forward to it. It's like thinking about it earlier. Like, so nice and so needed. It's been a
Yeah,
week.
it's been a day for me. So it's been and I think hump day. So I feel like it's a nice get us through the rest of the week kind of day. So I'm really
Mhm.
excited. I'm really excited
Yeah.
to share with everyone else too.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, I will follow your lead. I know it's
Yeah.
4:30, so
Yeah.
we'll
Yes. 4:30, 7:30. I know you did wanna have a quick little activity kind of start us off.
yeah,
You want to?
absolutely. Um, cool. Well, let's see. There's a handful of folks in our room, so as we're getting settled, I believe we have up until 5:30 or 5 o'clock Pacific time, and then 8:30 where you all are at on the East
So
Coast time.
yeah, 8 o'clock. So we'll just keep
8
going.
o'clock. 8 o'clock. Sorry,
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Yeah. But,
But yeah, I think to get us started, I'd like to do just a little bit of grounding, a little bit of breathing. This is a nice way for us to check in with where we're at, how we're doing, how our days are going, how our week has been. And so I like to do that through using our breath. I'm inviting you all to get into a comfortable seated, laying down position, anywhere where you're able to still hear my voice. It's up to you if you'd like to close your eyes or stare at something, gaze at something that isn't moving. And we'll take a few rounds of breath together. These breaths are sometimes called cleansing breaths. We're going to inhale through the nose, exhale out the mouth. And this is a really great way of kind of symbolizing, reminding our bodies that it's okay to let something go. And so for me, I'm in a seated position. My feet are on the ground, hands in the lap. Again, eyes can be open or closed. And wherever you are in your breath cycle, go ahead and just take the exhale. Like breathe out. And at the bottom of that breath, give yourselves a little pause before you start to breathe in through the nose. And as you breathe in through the nose, notice that your belly starts to expand. Notice how the breath fills you up. Maybe you sit up a little taller. Pause at the top. And then out the mouth, sigh out that breath. And when you're ready to take that next inhale, breathe in through the nose. Fill up. Take your time. Pause at the top. And then sigh it out the mouth. And we'll do one more at your own pace. Option here if you'd like to rest your hands over your belly or a hand over the heart as you breathe in. Fill up. Pause at the top. And then sigh out that breath. pausing at the bottom and taking a moment to just observe that shift in your body, in sensation, the shift from your day into the space. For those of you with the eyes closed, you can blink your eyes open, scan the room, just reorient yourself to where you're at. And take as many cleansing breaths as you need throughout our talk, throughout the day. Take that with you, incorporate it into whatever it is that you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. I feel like I'm in such a greater like position now. Just you know,
Yeah.
have
Breathing. Who knew?
all yeah. I wish that we did this more really. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like anything throughout the day, it's just all gone and we're all just kind of present here. I know
Mm-hmm.
some more people trickled in, so if you guys really enjoyed that, feel free to comment down below. Um,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you guys learn, any questions you guys have, just kind of feel free to speak up. But
Mm-hmm.
it started. So to start, hi, I'm Kat, branch manager and director of People of Happiness US. People of Happiness reached out to Mindy, thanks to Isa, our new public relations intern, to kind of talk about some tips and how to practice mindfulness, especially in celebration of National Mental Health Awareness Month and API month, so Asian American Pacific Islander month. So being able to kind of interlate the two is really cool, and I think that Mindy is just the best person to do it. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Mindy is a 500-hour
Mm-hmm.
certified yoga teacher. She just got that certification, so congratulations.
Thank
As,
you.
as a, correct me if I'm wrong,
Mm-hmm.
family and
Yeah, I'm a associate marriage and family therapist, in
yeah,
California, and working with folks also in Washington. So
awesome. So
yeah,
both coasts, everyone.
yes, many time zones.
Yes, yes, yes. So thank you again for meeting with us. I know it's pretty early over there.
Mhm.
And thank you to anyone in Indonesia watching. I know it's really early over there, so hopefully we can start your day right. So just to begin, can you just kind of talk about like your journey with mental health and like your journey with happiness, how you feel like they're related?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I feel like my journey with mental health is really closely intertwined with my identity as being Asian American. My parents are refugees from Vietnam. Um, they came to they started off in North Carolina like right after the war had ended, and so just kind of like growing up in that context of um, when I was born in California, I feel like there were a lot of like messages around, in some ways like scarcity, in some ways like working hard, success means this thing, achievement based, like goal oriented, like all of these things that were kind of messages that were sent, or that I inherited, is what I like to say. Because of the context of my family and my upbringing. And so when it comes to mental health, a lot of what I learned was this sense of like, keep your head down, work hard, don't focus on the bad. Don't tell about these negative stories or any things that have happened in the past that were hard. Don't be sad. A lot of it was just kind of like, do the best that you can. It was a very like kind of covert message of like just kind of suck it up, and ultimately like you'll be happy when you get a good job, you'll be happy when you have a house, you'll be happy when you're in like a relationship or things like that, like when you just accumulate these things that at least in my parents' mind, like when they had everything kind of taken away from them, their mindset is like, okay, well, at least like, make money and you'll be fine. Like at least you have a good job, at least you went to a good college, et cetera, et cetera. And so my journey of even just finding my own happiness was a lot of like reckoning with these emotions, like reckoning with the fact that it's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel things other than happiness, other than joy, because I feel like that's more realistic. That is my lived experience in that, and so really seeking out support in finding and understanding like my own mental health journey ultimately overall led me back to this feeling of happiness, this satisfaction that I have in my relationships, in my life, in the things that I do. It's just like a lot of it wasn't necessarily the path that my parents and my like elders kind of told me how to get there.
Yeah, I think that's like really important because a lot of us are either first gen, second gen,
Mm-hmm.
Asian American, Indian American, even as just being American, like times change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so recognizing those like differences and being able to kind of get away from those differences is, I think, really important. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and as we were like kind of highlighting our happy stories in Poe, where people share like times where they do get out of those like tough times, do you happen to have like a certain like time where you can like pinpoint where that kind of like changed from keep your head down, suck it up to
Mm-hmm.
I can talk about my feelings, I can have valid and validate these feelings of lows to better experience the highs, really.
Yeah. I think a big part of it for me was like moving out of the house and going to college. For me, it was that transition or transitional phase of like I moved from the Bay Area down to San Diego for college and just witnessing that there's another world out there. Like there's a whole other life out there, other lived experiences, and other relationships that I really wanted to nourish. And that in like actually kind of going through the motions, sometimes I was met with just like a lot of either resistance or conflict in my own personal relationships outside of my family, because in a lot of ways, like they had a different viewpoint than me. They had a different lived experience than me. And that turning point really was like, wait, I want to nurture and nourish these relationships, but I didn't feel like I had the skills to know how. It wasn't just like I can't, I don't know, like just buy someone a meal or cut them fruit and just be like, okay, here's my apology. I feel like folks, especially my peers, like I wanted so much more than just kind of these nonverbal gestures. And I felt like I was learning how to go about the world in that new way of being. So
Sorry, did I go out?
no, you're good. You're good now.
Okay, my little tidbit is that you can set timers for your social media apps, and I am past my limit, so that's what just happened.
Oh, got it.
That
That's
pops.
a healthy,
Yeah,
good for you.
I'm trying it, so I apologize for that little mishap. I think that happened on my last live, but we're all about healthy habits, so
Mm-hmm.
that's a little healthy. Um, so sorry to interrupt that. But also based on that, I just want to ask, like, do you believe that has an impact as to like where you are now and how you're practicing, like how you're practicing both yoga and therapy, and kind of
Yeah.
being able to balance both?
Absolutely. I think that something I didn't mention before, but a big part of me in my own mental health journey was actually finding yoga and finding movement. And being a first generation college student, like I also moved many, many miles away from home. And so I was using yoga as a way to manage stress. Just kind of like cut and dry. Oh, there's a new yoga studio that opened up. I can go there. And it truly, like, I feel like I just had like this transformative experience of like, whoa, that felt really good. And I kind of attributed it to kind of like runner's high. Like yoga's great and all, but like so is exercise. And it's kind of the like I should be doing that. It fell into that category of like, here's another thing that you can do in order to be successful. Like, just do the thing. And I felt like since I started practicing yoga, it just kind of shifted something within me. And I think what it was I wasn't content with operating in like this autopilot mode anymore of just like productivity oriented, goal oriented, overworking. Like I just started to really notice and highlight how um, my body was starting to just not necessarily shut down, but there are definitely moments where it kind of felt pretty close to it. And that, like, it was my own personal journey through movement and um, going through the hardships of being in college and then experiencing therapy for myself for the first time. All of those things, like, it probably, like, realistically took about 10 years of just kind of doing these things separately before they started to like meld together. And I kind of took that and ran with it. And so that it all really truly influences the work that I do now, like the mental health piece as well as the piece around how it shows up in the body, how our emotions show up in the body. I feel like you probably would feel like the anxiety in your body first before conceptualizing like, oh, I guess I'm anxious about it. Like you might walk into a room and then just kind of see other people and the look on their faces and get a sense of like, oh, there's kind of like the air is thick or they're in a certain mood or things like that. Like our bodies pick up on so much information before our minds can even put a meaning to it. And I found that out through yoga and through years of just kind of different movement practices. But it's been really cool to just directly incorporate that into the work that I do with my clients. So it's been pretty fun.
That's awesome. That's really awesome that you're able to interrelate them, especially just like hearing you say these things. I think that like me personally, I really resonate with that because I
Mm-hmm.
am still in college and so like I just like had a flashback to like walking to a room like right before a test
Yes.
and like noticing how everyone's feeling and then my like heart just starts beating so fast and I'm sure like you probably can relate or someone else can relate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so being able to kind of like notice, like that's interesting that you can put like, I guess like two and two together. And then you mentioned that you can actually like kind of notice that and be able to kind of control more. So how exactly would you kind of approach
Mm-hmm.
like that, where you do feel something, and then like how would you move forward from that?
Yeah. Well, I feel like the first part of it is in a lot of ways just like clocking what emotion is coming up. Oh, okay. It's okay. We're back. But clocking that emotion and the way that I learned about it in grad school too is that like a lot of our emotions are they're neutral. They're neutral in itself. It's there's a passage. So this is a plug not for my book, but I got this book, Permission to Come Home. It's like an author, psychologist, an Asian American, kind of like self-help book. But it's she wrote just in the sense of like emotions being neutral and how perfect that we are talking about this. Um, but her example was like if you received a text message that there was like a hurricane headed to your city, you wouldn't think to yourself that the text in itself is bad. It would be more so like, oh, okay, this is information and here's how I can respond. And emotions act in the same way. Like, I feel like for literally anyone who was on social media or any news source yesterday, just like after that like really terrible shooting and that event, that there might have been emotions that came up that informed us, hey, that wasn't okay. What happened was not okay. And anger might inform us with that. Sadness might inform us with that. The same way that happiness and joy might be like, ooh, I like that. I want more of that. And so, in a lot of ways, the emotions themselves are not inherently bad or good or anything. The context that we experience it might be bad or good or it might land a certain way in our bodies, but ultimately the emotions themselves, just as little like pieces of information. And to manage it or control it, I would say like almost like to respond to it, I feel like that's where the work happens, is like, oh, okay, I'm really upset at this, but I also don't want to I don't know, give up. Like, oh, I got a bad grade on a test. Like, that's really disappointing. And what am I going to do with that information? So, yeah.
Yeah, and that can apply to almost anything. It doesn't have to be a
Mhm.
test, it could be like something like, I don't know, car breaking down, like things that can be out of your control too. It's like your response still occurs. Um,
Mhm.
so I guess like another thing would just be like, um, could you just share a little bit about how you could do a body scan to kind of realize what is going on, whether it's like your emotions and your body kind of
Yeah,
connected.
absolutely. And that I feel like is a good segue into um, the body scan practice that we'll spend a few minutes doing. But I think the body scan in itself as a tool of checking in, and almost like the way that you would check the temperature and decide whether or not you're going to bring a jacket out with you, or bring an umbrella, or not go out at all. There's these just like ways of checking in and responding to what comes up. And I think the body scan is really great because when we start to notice, like, oh, my stomach feels heavy, or my heart's racing, I'm feeling a little bit hot, um, we can start to put meaning to those sensations. And when we have a meaning with a certain sensation, it puts a bit more context into what we're experiencing. Kat, to use your example of like if you walk into a room and it's right before a test, and then I don't know, your palms start to sweat. You might just be like, oh shit, maybe I should have studied more. Or like, I'm just nervous in general. Or like, I don't want to make this presentation. But it again, like not just with the test, but if your car breaks down on the freeway and you kind of have like a sense of like, oh, my heart's racing, that might inform you, like, how can I get to safety? Who can I call for help? What else can I do in this moment? Like, um, sometimes we're on automatic, like autopilot, because of our jobs, because of um, all the things, all life things that it's a nice way to pause. So if now's a good time, Kat, I can do maybe like a 5-minute body scan, and we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A later.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, yeah, I think that'd be
okay,
good.
cool. So, for those of you all who are still with us, feel free to get yourselves into a comfortable seat, or lay down, or even stand, just somewhere where you're able to be for the next few minutes. And this body scan will bring our awareness through different parts of the body, just as a brief check in. I like to describe it as if you're on a train ride or on an airplane and you're just looking out the window, like things are just kind of passing by. That is the intention of it. So if you notice yourself getting caught up on a certain part of the body, the invitation there is to maybe notice it and then redirect your attention, maybe to your breath, maybe scan the room. This isn't meant to kind of like zoom in and hone in on every detail or sensation, but more so the temperature check, the weather check of the body. So once you're in your comfortable seat, or standing, laying down, feet on the floor, feeling supported from the ground, you can either close your eyes or keep them open. And I invite you to bring your awareness first to your breath. Just notice that you're breathing. Notice where maybe in the body do you feel your breath. And allow this consistent rhythm of breath to be your anchor At any point, you're welcome to redirect your attention and awareness to the breath. And then as you're ready, bring your awareness now down to your feet, wherever they are in space, whether they're on the ground, if they're hanging out, wiggle the toes, stretch out the feet, move them around, press the floor away. Just notice. If you're noticing a sensation of appreciation for all that your feet do, you might invite a little bit of gratitude in that direction of your body. If you're feeling like your feet are a little achy or sore, offer a sense of compassion. And then let your awareness walk now up the legs to the ankles, the calves, the shins. Take inventory there for a moment. Maybe offer a gesture of appreciation, gratitude, compassion. And then keep walking your awareness to the knees, your thighs, your hips, wherever they're sitting, wherever they're resting right now. Bring in some movement. Maybe pause in stillness. Offer gratitude. Just acknowledgement. And then invite your awareness up the torso to your belly, your lower back. If you've been sitting a lot, you might notice sensation there. This might be a mental note of if you want to bring in movement later on, or if you want to grab your heating pad, take a bath, just kind of clock that information as well. And then just keep going up the spine. Maybe noticing where you feel your breath. Your ribs, your heart space, shoulders. Walk your awareness down the length of the arms. Maybe give your arms, your wrists, your hands a little stretch. Again, if it feels like a good time to offer gratitude, if it feels like offering compassion, maybe even putting a gentle hand on the heart, whatever comes up for you, do that. And then bring your awareness now to the back of the neck, maybe the jaw. Notice if you're clenching your jaw, if there's any tightness there in the neck. Into your face, your mouth, your lips, nose, ears. The space between the eyebrows, how is that doing? And then even to the crown of the head. We'll take another few rounds of breath. Taking in all the information from the crown of the head all the way down to the feet. Imagine like you can breathe all of that in, notice sensation, and then on the exhale, let it go. Breathe it out. Do that a few more times, knowing that you can come back to this body scan at any point, wherever you are during your day, your week, during the year. And then when you feel ready to come back to this space, you can blink your eyes open, scan the room. Check in, bring in some movement, and do what you need to do to take care. Feel free to reach out with any questions. But yeah, that concludes our meditation, our body scan exercise, and I do hope that you all are able to take that with you. Yeah.
So for anyone who just joined, we just finished a nice quick 5-minute body scan practice meditation to just kind of do mindfulness. And I feel like I even like just am now just starting to sound more calm. Funny. But then you just had that amazing like way of just expressing how you can literally do this anywhere,
Mhm.
whether you're in the car, you're in school, at and even sitting down or standing up, which I feel like some people kind of see yoga as something where like you go to class, you have to have a yoga mat, you have to do all these like different poses and everything. So
Mhm.
just bringing it down to the core and knowing that you can do it anywhere, really awesome. And
Mhm.
you guys can leave some more comments of if you enjoyed that, and maybe even your favorite part, what you thought about it. I did have one question while we were doing that. And I don't know, like how important you find this in your practice, but I did want you to like kind of explain to our audience like the expressions of like compassion versus gratitude.
Mhm.
We try to emphasize how like there's different ways to be happy and different like forms of happiness. Those two are definitely that two that I want to learn more about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I feel like when I think of gratitude and that being a practice of, in some ways, taking in that information, like what we talked about with emotions, with gratitude, I feel like it is this awareness of like, hey, things are going well, or hey, I do have um, these things in my life that bring me joy, that make me feel good, that I'm thankful for, I'm grateful for. And so I feel like it's this mindful awareness of just that, like things in life that are going maybe particularly well, things that helped, for instance, like help me feel good during the day. I might be grateful for um, the clients who I work with that day because they made me laugh, or I got a chance to go to the gym and I'm grateful for that. And just really pausing, slowing down, and taking in that information of like, oh, it's not all shitty, like, or terrible. It's not all really hard. Like, gratitude, I feel like in some ways kind of shines that light on like, hey, there are other things going on that might contrast um, throughout the day. It's not so much that I had a bad day overall, but maybe it sucked that my tire blew out and that I had to spend an hour trying to call insurance. And that part of the day was really crummy, but I might be grateful that I got tacos and boba afterwards. Like, there are these moments and almost like reframes of, you can see it as a really shitty day because this one thing happened, and there can also be moments of feeling gratitude and little moments of joy and happiness that when we highlight some of those things, that might give us more information about our emotions as well. It's like, again, that was really hard, and I was able to do something that made me feel good. So I feel like gratitude in that sense is really helpful. And I agree that boba fixes everything.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know that's what this talk is really about. Just
no, I really like that. One thing that really stuck to me when I was in undergrad was someone told me um, I don't believe in bad days. I could have a bad morning,
mm-hmm.
but the entire day isn't terrible. And I think that
Yeah.
how you that reframing technique I think is really nice, and hopefully we can kind of learn more about that as we continue
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness and being present.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think that you had also mentioned like compassion, and I can add that just really quickly of the way that I kind of view compassion is a kind of a sense of like not necessarily like wiping away all of the bad stuff, but just like being able to empathize with this like common humanity that things sometimes don't go our way, and being okay with that. If like, let's say my I had car trouble and I was late to something, um, a practice of compassion might look like, oh, like I that was out of my control, and I did the best, like I did everything that I could in that situation, and that's okay. I feel like that as um, a practice of not being so hard on myself. And I think of sometimes like I have like sometimes my parents' voice in the back of my head of like, you shouldn't have gone out that late, or like that's like I told you so. And all these things like, see, that's what happens when, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like that in contrast to like this reframe of being more compassionate, like their response is to me, I wouldn't say it's very compassionate. They're not very understanding of my situation. But to offer to myself like a little moment of grace, like, hey, I couldn't have predicted that, and it's okay. It's almost like a friend who reaches out and is just like, whoa, that really sucks. Like just seeing it for what it is, and having a sense of like acceptance around it, I think is really powerful. I feel like it's a lot easier to offer compassion to others, especially coming from like Asian American families, from my experience, because a lot of it is like helping others and helping family members and kind of being of service to others, and that kind of as the message of happiness, of joy, of like, I feel good when I make sure everyone else is okay. I feel good when, like some parents might say this, like I feel good when I know that my kids have a roof over their heads or things like that. And it's like, I feel like that is great. And it's also like worth acknowledging that sometimes things are really hard and that it's okay. Um, so I kind of view compassion in that lens. I'm still learning about that practice for myself as well. So, yeah.
No, that makes sense. And I think we're all growing and kind of continuing, which again is, I think, why it's so amazing that even as you have an established career, you're still trying to learn more. You're still getting certifications, still
Mm-hmm.
your techniques, your experiences, um, and beyond that, sharing that with others, which I really appreciate as well. And I also wanted to say thank you for like kind of bringing to light the Asian American experience as well, because I think that um, being an Asian own brand, it's a lot of going back and forth between like what is like our Indonesian audience like versus what is our American audience like, but then kind of realizing that we have a lot more in common than we think, a lot of struggles, more struggles,
Mm-hmm.
I think is really important, and also not losing that side of ourselves. So being able to acknowledge, like you said, like the values of family and like being kind to others, I think is really nice, and being able to celebrate that versus like almost like blaming and like kind
Mm-hmm.
of like touched on maybe like trauma or anything like
Yeah.
those, but kind of continuing. I really love like that you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Looks like I have a couple of questions trickling in. Did you want to start our Q&A?
Yeah, sure.
I think that we can. Okay, so it says to tap. So can you see that? If I
Yes, I can.
okay, so
Okay. What are your favorite ways to support mental health outside of therapy? Boba and yoga. Um, I live in San Diego, so I actually have like a zoo membership as well. So I will like go to the zoo as many times as I possibly can and like ride the Sky Safari and just like go for a walk. And for anyone who hasn't been to the San Diego Zoo, it's wonderful. Um, and yeah, just like being outside, I think really like um, being outside, going to the beach, and like just kind of a broad way of describing it, but just like finding ways to play, like playing outside, running around, climbing. Like I love doing just random activities. But yeah, just uh, all the things. I have a lot of things.
those are really amazing things. I think I just saw in your story you went when you went to the zoo, and I thought that was just so cool because like man, in the middle of the day, just going out and it
Yeah.
looked fun. Like I feel like I'd enjoy it so much. And I definitely on the bucket list now.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And I think Isa also had another question. Let me pop that up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, couldn't be shared. So let me read it instead. Um oh no. Here we go. Did that pop up?
No.
Sorry, I'm terrible at this.
It's okay.
Okay.
You can just read it.
So she,
Oh, here it is.
do you have any advice on building up courage to start therapy?
Yeah. I feel like I think my first response to that question is I would wonder what maybe is the like what feels like that block. And I think of from a cultural perspective, like my upbringing, therapy wasn't mentioned, or therapy was framed in a way where it's like only people who are crazy, or if there's something wrong with you, then you go to therapy. And so I feel like there's a like a piece of self-inquiry in terms of that. But also I think that like Instagram isn't therapy, but I feel like there are a lot of really interesting tidbits that like I feel like I've posted and I've reposted from other like fellow wonderful therapists. And even this book that I like referenced earlier is from an author who had a really, really huge Instagram following. And I feel like that contributed to her writing the book. And so I feel like just being open to it, and when the time is right, then then it's the time is right. I feel like therapy is something where it might be kind of trendy, like mental health, mindfulness, all that stuff. Like it might be buzzwords right now, and everyone is on their own journey. And so when your body feels ready, when it feels like a full body yes, whatever that means to you, I think that that is more than enough to at least inquire. Even if it's just planting the seed, uh, at some point that seed will grow. And so whether it's right now, whether it's a year from now, the fact that even folks are like coming to this talk, or bookmarking certain things, or at least reading through certain posts, I feel like those are all ways of planting the seed, and in a lot of ways trusting that process of when it feels right and you want to do it, there's so many resources out there. So I don't know, short answer, just do it, but also do go at your own pace, trust your instincts, which is something I feel like we don't learn. Yeah.
Or sometimes we know it, but we just need someone to say it, I think.
Yes, that too. Like the validation of that, I think, is important too. And so I think, to piggyback off of that, having conversations with others and normalizing that, like, hey, I'm not feeling too great today and I would want to chat, or reaching out and just like checking in, and in some ways like modeling that behavior that maybe I would want to be talked to. Like, hey, do you have capacity to check in today? When you're free, do you want to get boba? Like, let's talk. Just even little things like that, and connecting with others, I feel like can be really powerful. Like community care is so powerful. Like if I'm going to therapy and I mention it and normalize it, then in talking to you, Kat, like if we have other conversations, that might have planted a seed in your mind, and then you might have talked about it with someone else. And yeah, just really like acknowledging, like, hey, we have emotions and it's okay to seek out support.
Yeah, of course. And I also wanted to ask, kind of respond to that question, if you knew anything about like online therapy, because obviously you do therapy with
Mm-hmm.
those in California and Washington. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe like if you knew anything about that and how people can
Yeah.
get involved that way.
Absolutely. I think a lot of therapists nowadays, because of the pandemic, the silver lining has been that we are able to operate through telehealth. So in terms of what it used to be like, where the therapist you were only limited to folks in your city, or within the range of like where you're willing to drive to. Now you can pretty much do like a search, and you have access to any therapist who lives within your state, if they're offering telehealth. And I think a big part of that too is for instance, I'm a therapist who works in private practice. So although I'm based in San Diego, my practice is all telehealth based. I have a supervisor and he's also telehealth based. And it's great where in private practice we do get to focus on things that we're really passionate about. Like my supervisor started his practice because he was a queer Asian American person and was like, there's no queer Asian American therapist out there, or it's really hard to find. And likewise, like I am really passionate about the body and yoga. And so I've incorporated so much of that into the work I do. So it's really cool to just do that search and even through Instagram. I know a lot of my fellow therapists have their Instagram accounts. Psychology Today, Therapy Den. There's so many places to search. I think one thing that I'll name as like a therapist, there are also like these tech companies like BetterHelp and Cerebral that I feel like are also really accessible. And if that's your entryway into therapy, I feel like that is a wonderful like way to start. I think a lot of times too, like I view those companies as more of like tech companies. So that interpersonal connectedness might not be as emphasized in some of those platforms where you're texting or you're talking over the phone or things like that. But again, it's the same. It's ultimately like, if that's the first step, then that's awesome. And as you grow, as you evolve, as you grow out of those spaces, then it might be, oh, okay, in my therapy session, I learned I wanted to do this. So I'm going to look for a therapist who specifically specializes in that thing. So yeah, so many ways of accessing telehealth therapy. And I think it's great. And we get to work from, well, some of us work from home and it's great. Others work from home and they hate it. I think I'm in the in between, so it's all good.
It's nice that we have options now, definitely.
Yeah.
At its pros and cons as we've all learned. So I think that's really nice to like know that there are them.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to interject and just say thank you for being that like representation, both you and your supervisor, just thinking about that. I think recognizing that is just really amazing. So I just want to say thank you for that, for being a representation for me and
Mm-hmm.
our viewers watching, where like however, wherever, whatever stage they are, and knowing that you are able to help others with the work that you do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Relate to us, I think, is also really nice and really grateful.
Thank you. Awesome.
And I do see one more that was shared on our Instagram the other day. There were a couple, but this one I don't think we touched on. It was just how did you get into yoga and like getting into teaching yoga?
Mm-hmm. I think I got into teaching yoga with the same mindset that I was like kind of like brought up with, which was like go as far as you possibly can, as fast as you can. And so I started taking yoga when I was in college. I loved it. And I was like about to graduate from undergrad without the intention of going to graduate school right away. I wanted to work and just kind of find my footing post graduation. And yoga seemed like an opportunity for me to make money. So it purely started off as like a fitness thing, a stress reliever thing, and then it turned into like this could be a side job that I could do. And back then, like I mean, 10 plus years ago, like I want to say that my heart was in it, but at the same time, I again was still like on autopilot in a lot of ways. And so teaching really opened up this door of just allowing me to explore the practice in from different angles, literally, figuratively, all of those things. But yeah, so I got into it just simply by um, having the opportunity, saying yes to it, not really thinking about the long term. And I would have truly never expected to be here with my yoga teaching. So that part is kind of cool. But yeah, I just did.
Amazing. Such a good
Mhm.
question. Like just I don't know. You never know where people come from and like what they're doing. I think just hearing that story, like you weren't like ready, set, go, yoga, like you had this,
Hmm.
and being able to use that journey to come here is just truly amazing. And I would love to take a class with you one of these.
Yeah, I know. Likewise, you're always welcome.
Noted, noted. Definitely the zoo and a yoga class for sure. Oh,
Hmm.
aw. And I
Well,
think,
thanks, Jana.
yeah. So you really
And
are.
hi, Jana.
Uh, I'm excited for all that's to come with us and with you because I think you have a really great story and really great experiences that can be shared with the rest of the community.
Yeah, thanks, Kat.
Of course. So just to wrap up,
Mhm.
do you mind just sharing kind of where to find you, your socials, and like tell us more about your workshop and like what you have upcoming?
Yeah. And thank you for that. Well, this is my Instagram. I'm here intermittently. It's kind of my stress relief as well. I think I learned that reels are fun to make sometimes. And so um yeah, there's that. I have a website as well, which you can find through my Instagram account. Um, and then I'm hosting an upcoming workshop in July, which is kind of cool. I, as a therapist, do a lot of work around intergenerational trauma. Trauma in general. I'm EMDR trained, brain spotting trained. Those are all techniques that are based on body sensation and how trauma has impacted the nervous system and how it shows up through our body responses. So that as kind of a background, the workshop itself is exploring intergenerational trauma through collage art. And the idea behind that of trauma as being very fragmenting, like it kind of interrupts our sense of time. Folks might have flashbacks if they experience trauma. It might feel as if they're kind of like just very disconnected, dissociating, things like that. And collage is kind of this way of assembling and reassembling different pieces together to create this new meaning and this new art piece. And so the collage is a metaphor of trauma healing. From that intergenerational standpoint, I think of like my immigrant parents and how they were displaced after a war, and how there's just different pieces of their identity and therefore my identity that are kind of just floating in space without much context. And so taking that information, visualizing it into imagery, and then reassembling it, I feel like is a great way of kind of like honing in on my identity and our identity post trauma. So that is coming up in July. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but if you follow my Instagram, I'll definitely post about it.
And we'll be
Um,
too, so definitely.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I am absolutely excited for that. I know, like, I don't know, just kind of resonates with me. So,
Yeah.
an amazing experience, and it's really nice to be able to share and kind of interrelate to things. I think you do a really good job of pulling from different, like, passions and experiences and just
Mm-hmm.
subjects and everything. So, I'm really excited to see how that's gonna come. So definitely follow us too in case you're from Mindy's neck of the woods. We
Mm-hmm.
are Happiness, an apparel brand based in Indonesia and Tampa. Just trying to spread those positivity, joy, and kind of increase mental health awareness and kind of things like this, where it's, it's not a scary thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
that we can just kind of talk about more and kind of navigate with others and invite more happiness into our lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, any last words from you? I think
Um,
no.
No, just like thank you. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for reaching out and for the message that you send. Thanks to all the folks who stuck around with us. Um, really appreciate it. And yeah, just like really feeling really grateful that this is what we get to do.
Yeah, too. Thank you again for coming, for all the work that you've done, for sharing a little bit about you and how you practice mindfulness. I'll go ahead and post any of the events you're doing, especially up, and just follow up with you because I do want to read that book now. So if you could just DM me that, share with
Yeah,
everyone.
I will. It's
But
this one.
yes, I'm just gonna take a little screenshot right now.
All right, I'll send it later. Yeah.
Everyone have a good night, good morning for those of you joining in Indonesia. Just have a great rest of your day, rest of your night, and stay happy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.